You're listening to the Inner Strength Show. If you want to step into your greatness, you've come to the right place. Here is your host, the human strength expert, Kyle Newell.
What's up, guys? It's Kyle Newell back at you with another show of Unlocking Your Inner Strength. This is show number 6. I feel like we're starting to gain some momentum, so thank you for that. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you for deciding to tune in and share it with your friends. And this show is all about what I've learned throughout my life as the human strength expert and sharing that with you. When I say human strength, I'm not just talking about physical strength, although that is where my foundation lies as a bodybuilder and strength coach, personal trainer, if you will. But it's all about unlocking your ultimate human potential and stepping into your greatness and finding those things in life that are going to help you grow and fill that desire and that human need of growth and contribution to the world, and using your authentic voice, which is sorely lacking. Most people are just trying to go through life and they're trying to imitate others, or they're trying to be someone that they're not, and that comes across. And as I've said in the past, Seth Godin told my mastermind group and myself, people like us do things like this. When you remember that, you're going to attract the people into your life that you need and that are supposed to hear your message. Okay? So, with that said, I told you last episode that we were going to kind of go over a cool trick. I don't want to call it a trick, but a cool compass to make sure you're on the right path at all times. And I want to read you a quote from JFK. Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth. And when we conform, okay, and we follow the pack, usually we wind up just like the pack. And when you look at what the herd is doing or what the pack is doing, and you do the opposite in 99% of the situations and environments in your life, you're gonna wind up with untold or unfounded success at uncommon hours, because to be exceptional or to be great means you're apart from the pack, or you're not the norm. But most people's brains fear that, because if we can't fit in with those around us, then the brain perceives it as, I'm not fitting in with the pack. They're not going to like me. They're not going to be like me. I'm not going to be like them. They're going to kick me out. My chance for survival is going to go way down. And while that's not really the case, the brain perceives it as that. So you have to remember that. With today's episode, I'm actually going to dive into some stuff from my strength coaching and bodybuilding background that were myths that, I picked up on very early on, or even led the way with some of this stuff. And I don't want to say that's what made Newell Strength, but it is what made my theories and now the gym and the team over there, their methodologies and knowledge stand apart, and it attracted certain people in this industry. So if we're just talking about fitness, okay, and again, that's not what the show is about, but I figured I will dive into it here and there, because that is part of the mind, body, spirit triangle. But in the field of fitness, you have so many people, trainers, internet gurus that want to glorify or really complicate the message and the principles in the science, and they want to almost be experts that you need. Okay, and I always said, maybe it was just from having a different mindset, but from day one, my whole goal with the clients, when it was just me, was to teach them and give them the ways so that within 1 to 3 months they could go off on their own and do it if they so chose. Most of them stuck with me for years because it was about more than that. But whatever industry you're in, if you start simplifying the message and making it so a third grader can understand it, people in your industry are going to get very pissed off at you, because as soon as you take away this mystique that they have and this complex and convoluted language that they use, all of a sudden their expertise gets greatly diminished. So you always want to make sure that you can explain anything to a third grader, and that was an advantage I had from being an elementary school teacher for so long, was that I would have to take these concepts such as things like nutrition, Yanda's upper cross and lower cross syndrome get a little more complicated, but being able to explain it to a first grader why certain muscles get tight, what's going to happen if they get tight and you don't strengthen certain parts of the body. And that was just always a great advantage. And part of it was I love teaching, but that's something you should definitely be trying to do no matter what industry you're in. So I'm going to blow up 3 myths, fitness myths, right now. And again, this will help you stand apart, but not just stand apart. This stuff was actually way more effective once I figured it out. And remember, what the rest of the pack is doing, and what most gyms and trainers are still doing, okay, you're going to do this bodybuilding routine, you're going to train chest today, and then you're going to do an hour of cardio, does not work. And if it doesn't work, we have to do the opposite of that. So with that first piece, with cardio, for example, cardio is anything that works the heart muscle, okay? And anything that works the cardiovascular system is increasing your cardio. Now, the more muscle you work, the more cardio output you have. So we like to train with something called peripheral heart action, which is getting blood from head to toe, pumping some iron, and you'll get a way better cardio output doing that than going on a treadmill or an elliptical. And you're going to hear people say, well, you got to be in the fat burning zone. No, it's all garbage, okay? Cardio is the least effective. When I talk about cardio, I'm talking about what you see at the gym. It's the least effective form of exercise for fat loss that one can have. It actually makes the body much more efficient at using and utilizing fat cells and free fatty acids. And that might sound good, but if your car was more efficient at using gas, would it use more or less of it? It would use less of it. We don't want to use less fat. We don't want to get more efficient with that. And it's just like the whole notion of cutting calories to this extreme level. When you do that, your body's going to get efficient at running off that amount of calories. And then there's nowhere to go. And so then you increase your food back to normal, and you start putting on fat. Well, your body got efficient at, let's say, using 1,600 calories a day. Now you're going to try to give it 2,000. Well, what's going to happen with that extra 400 calories? So you do the math there. And that kind of leads us right into the nutritional piece. And again, I've got all these certifications. I've done 7 bodybuilding shows, trained multiple people for physique shows, really, really studied and learned from the greats in nutrition. And one of the things that I stumbled upon a few years ago was this idea of intermittent fasting and then mind mapping and looking at how the nervous system affects body composition and hormones and the progress that we're making. And it was kind of stumbled upon by accident, but when I went to intermittent fasting, it was because I was looking for a way to get rid of all the little last bits of stubborn fat, that a male bodybuilder will find on his lower stomach or his glutes. And intermittent fasting increases blood flow to the stubborn fat areas, okay, which have a very poor blood supply, and that's one of the reasons we have stubborn fat and it's hard to get rid of. So going back full circle, a couple myths about nutrition. Again, if you look what everybody's doing, do the opposite. Most people eat breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day that you're told. It is not the most important meal of the day. If we look at what happens with hormones in the morning, cortisol and insulin have a reciprocal effect. They call it the fishing effect. If cortisol's up, insulin's down, and vice versa. Okay, but in the morning, we want cortisol to rise up. we want that to alert us. Cortisol is an alertness hormone. We want it to keep rising. And as we let it keep rising over a couple hours, growth hormone is going to come up. Growth hormone is very fat mobilizing. Okay, so breakfast does not get your metabolism going. Your metabolism's always going. And this idea that you need to eat 5 or 6 times a day is so stupid. And I used to do it too when I didn't know any better. But if you look at giving the gut a break, and you look at the fact that it's not what you eat, it's who you are when you eat it. And I will say that again, and I'll give you a quick story about that in a second. Then if we have to be in our parasympathetic nervous system, which guys and girls is rest, digest, okay, and recovery, that part of the autonomic nervous system. Then you have sympathetic, which is fight, flight, or freeze, or a stress mode. If we're eating more frequently, as I tell you, 5 to 6 times a day, because it's grazing and it's going to keep the metabolism humming, you're going to be eating in the wrong state of your nervous system majority of the time. Most people already have way too much stress. So telling them to eat 5 or 6 times a day is just an added stress to that. They're going to eat on the run. And if you're in their sympathetic nervous system, think about it. You're in that system because that's a survival system. That's when blood goes to the extremities. And if blood's at the extremities, it's not in the gut. If it's not in the gut, it's going to impair digestion. And if we're chronically stressed, right, hormones are all thrown off. Cortisol and adrenaline start dominating, and testosterone and things like thyroid and growth hormone kind of lose their parking spot on the cell. And every cell has certain receptors, but I won't go too in depth with that because we can do various topics on that. But nutrition, again, affects your whole well-being. And that's what we recommend. And what I do is intermittent fasting, so about a 16-hour fast, from my last meal to my first meal, and then eating less often, okay? And getting back to it's not what you eat, it's who you are when you eat it. And I always say this about vacation and clients, and we just had Vicky come back from a vacation to Rome and various other parts of Europe. She didn't work out. She ate whatever she wanted. She drank whatever she wanted. She slept 12 hours a night. She came back weighing less than when she left. Okay? She was parasympathetic. She was in a relaxed state. So that one of the most overlooked keys with fat loss is sleep and recovery and rejuvenation. But we'll leave it there for now on that topic because I want to make sure we get everything in. One more myth kind of going against the grain when I realized, okay, most people are doing a bodybuilding split. Well, a bodybuilding split's good for a bodybuilder, but that's a particular sport. And when I say bodybuilding split, I mean you're breaking up your training by different body parts, right? Arms, shoulders, chest, back, legs, etc. Now, the way muscle growth happens, okay, well, we want 2 things. We want to alter body composition, so we want to lower body fat. We want to increase muscle mass. Muscle growth is systemic, though. It's not localized, meaning if you look at it, how anabolic steroids work, if you do an injection, it doesn't just affect the injection site. It's a hormonal response. The whole body, the protein synthesis, or in other words, the building of muscle is going to increase. Okay, so muscle growth is not local; it's systemic. It's whole body. So, with that in mind, why are we not training more people with full body approaches and the bigger exercises, the bigger bang for your buck exercises, the squat, the deadlift, the pull up, the overhead press? I guarantee you, if you go back to Alfredo Pareto, who was an Italian economist, if you go back to his 80-20 rule, 20% of what we do is going to give us 80% of the results, okay? And the same always goes for nutrition principles and exercise. So that is, something to keep in mind. Again, this is not meant to be a training show, but, I thought I'd use some examples from my background. But in recapping it, guys, look what the herd is doing and realize that the herd is just going to follow the person in front of them. Right? And by the time they realize they're going off the cliff and they've already taken that step, it's going to be too late for most of them. Okay? Most people go through life, they look for security, and yes, security is a needed thing. It's a human need. But when we start confusing actual physical security with things like making sure I have my pension. There's anything wrong with these guys, but trying to work for the man and all this type of stuff, and realizing that if most people are miserable, right, and they just look forward to the weekends, and they're looking forward to 2 out of the 7 days, meaning they're looking forward to Saturday and Sunday, that's no way to live. And if we go back to our F's, our freedom, our fun, and our fulfillment, when you follow the herd in your career, you're going to be lacking freedom because you're giving it majority of your time away to somebody else for their purposes. And a lot of times their values might not even align with yours. Realize that it could be marketing. I've done that with marketing, my writing style, all that stuff. Look what the populace is doing and do the opposite. That's that. I hope you can remember that JFK quote, as we move forward throughout the week. Conformity is the jailer of freedom and the enemy of growth. And if we're not growing, we're dying. There's no such thing as staying put. Now, on the next show, we're going to be talking about further myths, okay? I'll get more into nutrition. I'm going to get into a lot of mind map with the next one. Mind mapping is the science of transformation. It's something I'm very, very passionate about. It's been a long study of mine. I've had a great mentor in Dax Moy with that. And, I'm going to teach you ways to change your hedonic tone, okay? How to increase your pleasure and your joy in certain environments, and how to increase certain, shifts in attitude and clean up some of your environment and just to improve your mood right away, to reduce your threat right away. And we're going to not +1 stuff next week. We're going to -1 stuff as far as figuring out what your greatest threat is. And then based on that greatest threat, we're going to come up with strategy. And I'm going to have you take out a pen and paper next week. And you're going to start going to work with how to clear that out of the way. So remember, predict, respond. Predict, respond. And that noise is me kind of being like the windshield wiper. You're pushing this stuff off to just clear it out. Move it out to the side. Move forward. Move it out to the side. Move forward. Okay? So that's going to be really cool next week. Mind map. Make sure you have your pen and paper ready. I'm here to make you guys great. I'm not saying I'm great myself, but I am confident in my ability to coach you to the next level and to be that voice that is going to share experiences throughout life from my perspective that I've found to lead to a better life. And if I can inspire just one other person to better their life and to become something greater than they currently are, then this has been worth it. And it makes me think about every time I've written emails or articles, I'm thinking, nobody's writing this. I mean, I've been writing a 12-page newsletter for 4 straight years. It comes out every single month. And sometimes like, man, nobody even reads this stuff. Nobody even cares. And then you'll get an email or somebody will say, hey, that article, that really hit home. Man, that article brought me to tears. And if you hear from just a few people, it's like, okay, I got to keep doing this because people need to hear the message that you're putting down. So you're going to +1 right now. How are you moving the ball, down the field? Are you moving the chains forward? What's the one thing you can do right now, tonight, today, or tomorrow to gain momentum? It might be a phone call you have to make. It might be a book that you have to order. It might be an email that you have to send, but do it. Okay, nothing great was ever accomplished by just sitting back on your hiney and not stepping forward. You got to have blind faith to fight that resistance, and you got to have stubbornness and stupidity to overcome the great inertia of resistance that's going to try to stop you from doing great things. So, thanks again, guys. From the bottom of my heart, I love that you're here and that you're a fan, and I'll be back next week with a whole mind map episode. Peace out.
You've been listening to The Inner Strength Show. If you enjoyed the show, remember to subscribe, rate, and review us in iTunes.